Okay, I'm gonna start this over because I went on for 5 minutes talking about nothing, so maybe I can cut 5 minutes of that. Um, let's go for a more regular vlog type thing. Just to summarize how my day went, I had planned an outing with a lady friend of mine that kind of just fell through, and get to a point where you just think maybe we're just gonna stop right here. Maybe maybe just save myself this potential heartache and just kind of cut my losses. You know, and that's really tough for like a person like me because uh, I try really hard to give people like second and third chances, but it just never really pans out one way. You know, it never really works out in my favor. And at the same time, if I mess up, I'm never really given those second or third chances at all either. So I feel it's kind of a bit an unfair exchange on my part. You know, I put myself through the ringer for this kind of stuff, and I don't really get anything in return. Um, I I had been talking to a friend of mine where I had explained the situation where um, I feel like they're trying to give me a hint. Um, Okay, this is gonna be really hard to explain because I'm not using names. But I had been talking to a friend of mine about this girl that I'm seeing, or talking to at the very least, and how um, it feels like they're not that interested at all. But instead of outright telling me, they're just gonna keep doing this thing where I invite them somewhere, they'll say yes, and then they'll wait until like the hour before, and then they'll be like, nah, never mind, you know, just to get away from it. And that's that. At least that's what it feels like. And my friend has been telling me like, um, she's had similar experiences, and she tells me that sometimes it is pretty genuine. And I understand that sometimes I understand that sometimes things do come up. I'm not gonna blame the person for like if things do come up, and um, yeah, it just so happens that it lands on the day that we're supposed to go do something. But after like two or three times of this happening, I get it, you know. And honestly, it's not a very nice thing to do because, you know, one train of thought is the idea that by doing this, by not outright saying no, you're not hurting the person's feelings, and you're hoping that maybe they can come to the conclusion on their own. But at the same time, all you're doing is prolonging the inevitable, and eventually you're gonna have to say something, because this kind of stuff just doesn't like work itself out. It comes to a head 100% of the time. This thing doesn't just peter out. It always comes to a point, and that point, the longer you wait, the sharper it's gonna be. And what tends to happen with me is I usually tend to give that person like more chances than they deserve, and I feel too much about this kind of thing, honestly. Like people who don't really deserve a second or a third chance get five or six before I finally realize something. By which point um I've already been like slightly damaged through the exchange. And I think um I tell myself every single time that I'm done, but the truth is that it's gonna keep going, it's gonna keep happening, and every single time I'm gonna tell myself no. But at the end of it, as soon as I'm up and ready to go, I'm gonna do that shit all over again, and that sucks, honestly. But sorry, I was poking the phone. I hope that wasn't loud. Um, I don't know. Maybe I've been awake for too long, and I'm not giving it enough time. But every single time this happens, I try to tell myself be more cool next time. Not like the Not like cool as in like, I guess I do mean cool as in that sense, as in like don't let things get to me so much. I'm the exact opposite kind of person where as soon as something comes to me, I put my whole heart into it, and when things just don't work out, that affects me at the same amount that I cared about it, you know, and that happens 100% of the time, and I'm always immediately let down by things. And again, I'm not gonna like I'm not gonna pretend like that like, I'm owed something, but I will say that every single time I do this, I tell myself maybe I should learn from this, you know. But it's always the wrong lesson, and it always seems like I'm the life lesson for that other person. Where maybe they shouldn't do this. Maybe they shouldn't be a jerk to to people like this. Maybe next time just outright tell that person no. And I feel like this happens to me more often than not because I never ever learn from my lessons, and I feel like I just constantly need to change my environment before mistakes are made. And honestly, um, I'm just not in a place where I feel that awesome about everything. So I guess just to put this generally, I had been talking to a girl for like a little while, not that long actually, not that long at all, but um, thought it was going alright, and then one day it's just decided that one day she just decided to like flake on me, and then bail on me again, and then just cancel plans altogether, or just don't even bother telling me that plans are canceled. And I feel like, yeah, I get the hint. Fine, screw it. If you don't want to do this, fine, but don't expect me to just sit here and take it. I guess that's my other thing is that by the time that I learn the lesson again, because I need to relearn this lesson a million times apparently, um, I tend to confront the situation, and I hate that because by the time I do that, it's too late. The damage has already been done, and there's no way to solve it or fix it. And by the time that I do this, it's not like things will just like work out. By the time I learn this lesson, by the time I'm confronting the situation, the damage has already been done, and there's nothing you can really do except talk about it. You know, it's like the bombs go off, and instead of like talking about the aftermath, you're talking about all the ways that you could have prevented the bomb from going off, you know, and that happens every single time. And again, it's like 3 in the morning, and it's entirely possible that I've just been awake for too long and not giving this enough time to stew. But right now, I'm in a place where I'm quite finished with it. Um, but I don't mean that for real. Because as much as I want to tell myself I'm done for real, it's not gonna be for real. It's gonna continue to happen again and again and again until I never learn the lesson. Because that's the kind of person that I am. What did end up happening today was I met up with an old friend of mine that a lot of my new friends, not new friends, they don't know this person, but I met up with an old friend that some of my friends that know this person probably wouldn't approve of, considering how I talked about this person. This person kind of broke me for like 4 years, and not 4 years, probably like 2. That's over exaggerating it, but this person and I didn't really like have a fantastic way to like break off the friendship, but for whatever reason, um, we kind of like kept in touch after a little while, you know. And I never personally saw them as a bad person, but some of my other friends did. And the fact that uh, am keeping in contact with them is probably something that they probably wouldn't be happy about, but I do it anyway because I'm me and I never learn. But I met up with them actually for the first time in like a couple years, and it went it went great. It went all right. You know, like um, I hope I get to see them again because for a little while they were one of my closest friends, and for a little while they were a special person to me. But as times change, lessons are learned, and I'm not gonna make that same mistake again. But this one, however, is a mistake that I'm gonna keep on making. And you know what? I'm gonna give it another day, maybe, and then I'm gonna start confronting the situation. See, my thing is, um, I feel like confrontations only mean something if you do it in person. I feel like if you do it over the phone or over text or whatever, you give that person the chance to lie or to make things up. I think that um, I don't know where I read this statistic or even how accurate it is, but a lot of the times they tell you that the out of the three ways to communicate these days, which is through text or email or whatever, through phone calls or in person, which are two separate things. Sorry, through text, email, or whatever, through calling, or video chat, or just straight up in person. Out of those three, the only way you can really get the most honest answer is in person. I would think that um, being on a call with this person kind of makes people tend to be a bit more honest, just because you're given less time to think. You kind of have to like just come up with a lie right then and there. If you were planning on lying, but apparently not. Apparently it's pretty easy to lie on the phone. I guess it's because you're not really seeing that person's face. Through text, of course, it's really easy. You can just kind of look at it and like stew in your head what you want to say next, without any recourse as to what to say. But I tend to just forego both of those, and I just tend to go for the face to face communication. I don't like dealing with people through text. That's my least favorite way to deal with people, is through text, because I know for a fact that you have like an infinite amount of time to like think about what to say, you know, and I guess it says something more about me than the other person at that point. But I'm not gonna pretend like if someone were to confront me over text, I would think about it for a long, long time. Just because I'm given that luxury when I'm texting. Through phone call, I mean, I'll give myself the chance to kind of just like sit down, close my eyes, and like think about what I'm gonna say next. But if in person and this person's staring at me and they're watching me do this, it's pretty obvious, you know. And I guess through a phone, time is kind of suspended a little bit, so you are given that extra bit of time, I guess. In person, however, you kind of just have to speak about, like you're not given an opportunity basically to lie. You're not given a chance to fabricate a story in a sense. I'm not saying that people outright lie about things, but I'm saying that um, the lack the lack of time to articulate your thoughts kind of makes you a bit more honest, you know. Um, I guess being given the time to think about what you're gonna say, like during these videos, sometimes I take pauses because I know for a fact no one's listening to me on the other end, but I pause sometimes so that I can think about what I'm gonna say next. It's kind of hard to do that in a conversation. Sure, it does happen and it can happen, and I've done it before, but it's just unnatural and weird. And usually, the only way I see it as a normal thing is if it's happening during a conversation where, like I'm talking to a friend in like a parking lot or something. Like we're just talking. But if it's like this confrontation thing, it's kind of hard, I guess. It's a confrontation should be just quick and done, and and succinct. Um, but more often than not, what tends to happen is my problems arise from people that can't find the time to come up with to have a confrontation. Usually you gotta schedule this shit like a month in advance, by which point they've had a month to think about what they're gonna say. That's the other problem, is the scheduling thing is like trying to schedule a time and a place to talk with people, by which point they've already thought, okay, this is gonna happen. I should think about what I'm gonna say. So in a sense, it's kind of like a pre-recorded message, you know. So honestly, the only time to like get the most honest confrontation out of a person is the next time you see them, just do it then and there. Don't even talk to them about it. But the other thing that tends to happen to me is they just don't say anything, and that pisses me off a lot because it's like people get so bold and people are so bold up until they have to own up to what they're talking about. It's kind of like going on Tumblr and like turning off your anons, you know, and suddenly you get a reduced amount of hate mail in that sense, I guess. But it's kind of like that where people are willing to do something as long as they don't have any repercussions for it. But as soon as they're confronted for it, they kind of slow down and think about it, which is the natural human response. But why even why even do it in the first place? Is my question. Why even bother doing it in the first place? Why make it so difficult in the first place if all you're gonna do is make it difficult later? I guess it's my thing. I've been talking for so long. I don't know if I've even said the phrase. I might have, but just the idea that um by not saying no now, all you've done is prolong the inevitable because you're gonna have to say no later anyway. And by not doing that now, you're just prolonging the inevitable because you're gonna have to say no later. I think I just repeated myself, but you get it, right? And instead of like leading someone around like this, and I'm not saying that they were leading someone on, but I'm not saying that I'm being led on right now. I'm just saying that, look, if you don't want to do this, you just let me know, you know. And I do understand the hesitation though, just because of the culture that we're in, where saying no outright can be quite harmful, or like, um, just because I'm not like that. Just because I'm okay with people telling me no right away doesn't mean that other people are. Some people are forceful and stuff like that, and I get that. And honestly, if I'm told no right away, I'd probably ask why, you know. And I guess that's not what they want to hear. What they want to hear is, as soon as they say no, just leave it at that, and never deal with it ever again. But you gotta be a bit more realistic on that. Of course, I'm gonna ask why, you know. And I guess some other people are more forceful in that, and like, why, give me a chance, type thing. And I do understand, and I am guilty of doing that kind of where, sometimes I tell myself like, like, come on, like, you're not even gonna bother. You're just gonna give me that flat out rejection type thing. And I get that that's stupid to do, but I don't know. I tend to act on impulse in that sense, where as soon as something goes wrong, as soon as something goes off, I I pounce at the chance to try and fix it without really assessing the situation. And so right now I'm meeting another point where uh, I have to confront something, and I am in the worst possible way of like communication where this person barely responds to messages in the first place. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm gonna go take a nap because that's all I have time for. Um, and I'm just gonna see how this works out. So I'll probably be back in a few. I'll probably be back in a little bit. I'm not even gonna say goodbye. I'm not even gonna bother. So see you guys later. See you guys in a little bit.